live here in a moment. Okay. So the meeting is being recorded. So welcome everyone to the joint meeting of Creve Coeur and Maryland Heights Township Democratic Clubs. I'm Harvey Ferdman. I'm the chair of the Maryland Heights Democratic Club, and I'd like to introduce Sydney Jackson. She's the chair of the Creve Coeur Democratic Club. Sydney, if you want to say a few words.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening for our meeting.
Thank you. And we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I will share that on the screen. One of my favorite shots of it.
Put my earbud in.
Hopefully you can all see that okay.
You're not seeing him.
I'm sorry? You're not seeing it?
I am.
You are. All right. Some folks can see it, some can't.
Yes.
We'll go with the folks who can see it.
Mm-hmm.
How's that? Let's try it one more time. That should work. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And thank you all for being with us tonight. I'd like to take a moment and introduce any elected officials or representatives of elected officials. If you would self-identify and introduce yourselves.
I'm Mayor Sharon Pace, the City of Northwoods.
Nice to have you aboard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ella Jones, the mayor of the City of Ferguson.
Nice to see you again, Ella.
Good evening, everyone. This is Councilwoman Nicole Greer from the City of Creve Coeur and candidate for St. Louis County Council District 2. And I apologize for not being on camera, but you would be grateful.
We will let that speak for itself. Okay. Others? Any other elected officials?
Well, I'm not an elected official, but I hope to be one day. My name's Connie Steinmetz, and I am running, I just filed for the 87th district, which is currently Paula Brown's district, but she's not running again. And she has endorsed me. And the 87th district is Maryland Heights, Creve Coeur, and Chesterfield. So I'm very excited to be here this evening, and hope I can count on your support. My background's very similar to Paula's. I was a teacher in Hazelwood School District for like 36 years. I was president of the Teachers Union, Hazelwood NEA. So I have a strong interest in education, obviously working families and unions, and keeping our community strong and safe. And I'll just be quiet now. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Are there any other elected officials, representatives of elected officials, or candidates? Do you have any other candidates online with us tonight?
Good evening. My name is Karen Pierre. I'm not a candidate, but I'm the committee woman for the Normandy Township and the secretary for the Central Committee.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Cheryl Gladney, and I am running for governor of Missouri.
Wow. Big office. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We usually invite candidates, this is for all the candidates, to have a 2 or 3 minute presentation at the beginning of our meetings. If you're interested in that, please reach out to me or Sydney, and we will schedule you in for the next meeting. That would be wonderful to hear from everybody. Anyone else who is a candidate or elected official or representative of an elected official? Okay, hearing none, we will move on. Is the person who is speaking on the women's health care / choice, abortion choice petition online with us? Could you identify yourself? Is there anyone online who is intimately involved with that would like to give an update? Okay. Do I have a volunteer? Someone who's already involved with the campaign, the signatures?
Yes, have been participating since before the campaign launch. I'm a member of Abortion Action Missouri, and we are working under the title and the website of Missourians for Constitutional Freedom.
Can't hear anything.
And I have been trained and have been collecting signatures. Our campaign launch was February the 6th. We had 1,000 people come to the pageant that evening and sign the petition. And I'm still collecting signatures on the petitions. We have probably close to 100,000 volunteers now. We launched the campaign in St. Louis, Kansas City, Columbia, Springfield, and St. Joseph's. And we, got the majority of our people who are volunteers mostly trained to gather signatures before the campaign launch. And then we've been adding to the number of people who are trained to collect signatures on an initiative petition. We're growing by leaps and bounds. I do not know how many actual signatures at this point in time we have collected, but we're doing quite well. As you are all probably aware, our most difficult areas are going to be in the districts that are in rural areas. So obviously we started out with, the 5 areas, and we're doing quite well there, but we need to get into the rural areas and get signatures in those, because as you know, they have changed the process, and we need, out of the 8 districts, we need a certain percentage in 6 of those districts. So, and our deadline is May the 5th. So we are kind of, working as strongly as we can. What we have found is the best way to collect signatures without wasting our time and also to keep ourselves safe is to ask people if they would have a party in their home and invite as many people that they know who would be interested in signing. Then we have a person like myself there at their home, and people come in, maybe have a soda or coffee or tea or cookie or whatever the hostess or host wants to serve, and then we get the petition signed. In St. Louis, our notarization day is on Thursday. So Thursdays at 4 o'clock, starting at 4 o'clock, we go to one of the union halls, and we have a team of probably about 30 notaries. And the notaries sit at tables inside the union hall, and the people come in with their petitions and get all the pages signed. And then we turn them in to either Abortion Action Missouri or to the Missourians for Constitutional Freedom. But we're working statewide, and we are under the deadline of May the 5th.
I'm sorry you got interrupted there. When is the deadline?
May the 5th. We have to turn them into Jay Ashcroft by May the 5th.
I have
I
a
heard there was an
question.
earlier deadline to be able to verify all the signatures.
That I don't know at this point in time. I imagine so, but yeah.
Harvey, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Did you say you have 100,000 volunteers?
Because that's what you said, 100,000 volunteers.
I think statewide, we're approaching that.
Because we only need 171,000 approximately. I mean, you
Right.
could have almost, you only have to go and collect like another 100,000 to be on the safe side, or a
But
little bit more.
Just in the St. Louis area, we've been training 200 volunteers per week. And that's just in the St. Louis area. So
My husband did the volunteering, and have already been collecting signatures.
Good.
And we kind of did the house party routine also, but mostly going with neighbors and friends that we know. So it's going to be probably easy to get St. Louis City and St. Louis County,
Right.
but the rural areas are going to be much more challenging, at least 2 of those districts.
And
Right.
if anyone's interested in having a house party or finding out where they can sign the signature, what's the website they can go to?
Missourians for Constitutional Freedom,
I love that name.
or else Abortion Action Missouri.
Or also the League of Women Voters, or the National Council of Jewish Women.
Okay.
Wow, starting to get a lot of things to remember. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if any of those are your favorites and you want to have a house party, it sounds like a wonderful thing to do. Thank you both very much for the update.
Can I say something about this?
I do have to interrupt. We have a very limited amount of time with Congresswoman Representative Cori Bush. She is now with us, and I would really like to turn the floor over to her as soon as possible. And Frank will pick this up later. So without further ado, I think Congresswoman Bush requires no introduction. Everyone should be very familiar with her, and I would like to, in the interest of time, Representative, if you would, the floor is yours, and thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for this invite. I'm glad we were able to do it. Sorry for the delay, but I'm coming off of another meeting, as you could probably guess. And so just want to talk a little bit about what is happening in Congress. I know that there has been a lot of talk about what's happening with like abortion rights, not only locally, but across the country, what's happening with Coldwater Creek, Westlake landfill, and a host of other things. And so I can just get into it. When people ask, what's some of the things that we have been able to work on here recently, when I think about all of the change that has happened over the last 3 years, going into, I guess, close to 4, almost 4 years now, since I've been in Congress, I have to start with the American Rescue Plan. And I start with the American Rescue Plan because we are still seeing the effects of how that money has been able to help on the ground all across the district. And to the tune of what we've been able to bring, my office alone, not only with the American Rescue Plan, but also through other dollars, is a little over $1.6 billion and counting for this district. Just 2 weeks ago, I am proud to have fought for and delivered over $13.7 million. Can y'all hear me okay? I'm hearing is someone talking to me? Okay. $13.7 million in federal funding this year that will go directly to the people who are doing such meaningful work to make a difference in our communities. So these investments, they'll help create jobs, prevent homelessness. It's money for education. And, the one thing about the way that we were able to pick how this money would be, like the projects that we would pick and how it would, how we would decide between over 100 proposals. There were 100 proposals when most communities get like 30 or 40. We got 100 because we put it out to the entire community saying, hey, reach out. Let's see if we can get this money to the communities that need it the most. and the organizations that are doing the work, so that they can scale up to take care of more people. So, creating investments that will help create the jobs, prevent homelessness, address food insecurity, support our youth. We made sure to stop every time there was a proposal that came across the desk that was about our youth, repairing infrastructure, anything that would strengthen our communities. And actually, over the course of the last 3 years, we've delivered over $40 million in these direct investments to support life-saving essential programs all across this district. And just to name a little bit of like some of these folks that were able to receive this money, it includes funding like $850,000 for Operation Food Search. It's for their healthy food and community renovation project. We wanted to make sure that Easter seals, we're talking about disability services and workforce training, $500,000 for Easter seals. This is training that will help more than 800 professionals, disability service professionals. Youth and Family Services Center, St. Louis Housing Authority for the Clinton Peabody Project, Reproductive flood prevention initiatives, Perpetual Care Home for Veterans Independent Community Project, Bright Futures, this is for our Youth in Need Project, Urban Strategies for more housing, even gun violence response network. So we were able to get money for that and for mental health access. And then another $214 million in aid for public transit for nationwide. And one thing that really sticks out to me with this particular one, and I have to say this because people don't know how we have to fight and maneuver for these dollars. This money doesn't just fall in your lap. They don't just say, hey, because you are, Missouri's first district, we're just going to give you this money. Mayor Jones, actually in St. Louis City, came to me and said, hey, we lost Metrolink service. We lost 2 of our Metrolink cars. And, this is a lot of people that won't be able to make it to work or doctor's appointments and such because these are down due to the disaster, the flooding. And so I made all the phone calls to all of these different secretaries. Hey, I need money. I need money. They said, oh no, President Biden has already made his decision. Only $40 million for this disaster relief. And I said, no, we got to have this money because I can't have people, not having a way to get to work, or to school or, to doctor's appointments. And I wouldn't take no for an answer. My staff wouldn't take no for an answer. And then finally, after about 24 hours of phone calls and no's, we reached someone that said, if you would ask for for $214 million, you only need 22 million. But if you would ask for 214 million to help New York and to help Georgia, if you would ask for that, because nobody else is asking, if you would ask for the whole thing, we'll make sure St. Louis gets a full 22 million. And so that's what we did. And we did the work for 214 million, just so St. Louis could get 22. But that's the kind of work that we are doing to make sure that no matter what we have to do, that we are prioritizing the needs of this community. When I think about even our unions, we were able to get $1.5 million to get our unemployed and underemployed community members good paying jobs, unionized through UAW. The same folks that we rallied with in Wentzville, when they were on strike. Thinking about going back again to that historic flooding, we were able to get another $82 million through a community development block grant, disaster recovery fund, because we reached out and we did that work. When we talk about RECA, so I know some of you may have had questions about RECA, about the Radiation Exposure Compensation Reauthorization Act. So just before coming to Congress, I have been working on this issue to ensure that all radioactive waste that was left in our communities by the federal government, that is cleaned up and that our communities are compensated. So this was something we started day one. So the Senate's passage of RECA, we applaud it. It's a crucial step forward in supporting our communities and getting that compensation that St. Louisans deserve. In the House, though, we are pushing forward. I look forward to supporting this legislation as the bill advances in the House, and we'll keep pushing for it. We have a commitment that this will be included in our next must-pass funding bill. We are hopeful that this funding bill, we just received word that it should pass, that the bill is there. We have 72 hours to get this bill across, to get it done. It has to be done, by Friday at midnight. So we're hoping that this happens. If it does not happen, if it doesn't pass the House and the Senate, then we will go into a partial government shutdown. But we're believing that that won't happen. Last week, I joined my Missouri House colleagues in a letter to both the House and the Senate leadership and the appropriators who work on that committee, pushing, urging, demanding that they include RECA in the upcoming FY 2024 appropriations bill. I also introduced the Bipartisan Cameral Justice for Jana Elementary Act of 2023 with Senator Josh Hawley. So along the same lines, making sure that we are holding the folks who need to be held accountable for this waste that is still in our communities. So this legislation requires the cleanup of Jana Elementary. And I know it's not in your area, in your community, but this affects us all. Because if we can hold, whether it's the Army Corps of Engineers, the Department of Energy, the EPA, whoever is responsible, if we can hold them accountable in one area, we can hold them accountable all throughout the district. Same thing with Coldwater Creek. We've been able to do the same thing. And so I think that I will stop there to give time for people to answer questions, but I wanted to hit on a couple of the things that I know that people wanted to know about. I know people really wanted to know about if RECA was going to pass and when, and then just some of the money that we were able to bring into the district. So I will stop there and open up for questions.
Very good. Thank you. We have a hand raised by Sandra Murdoch and then a question in the chat from Ed Weisbach. Go ahead, Sandra. You need to unmute.
Yeah. Good evening, Mrs. Bush. I'm so glad that you're able to talk to us today. I'm Sandra Murdoch, Youth Advisor for the NAACP Youth Council. I would like to know, how do you decide on which issue to address and which person or which program to give money? Because I'm sure everybody's coming at you, Congresswoman, and asking for money for their cause. How do you decide on which one is most useful for you to attack?
So it's a number of things. So one of the first things that we do is we look at all of the projects. We pretty much lay all of the projects out and look at where those projects are coming from. So we want to try to make sure that projects are happening all across the district. So that's one piece. The other piece then is our priorities. So our priorities being, housing, food insecurity, education and youth, our veterans, and so we look at violence prevention, healthcare. So we look at the different buckets of our priorities, and then we take those and we put them into those buckets to see how we can address as many of those priorities as we can. And then also, then it goes into, okay, which of these projects will be able to make it across? Because right now, so what we're dealing with, and I know I'm preaching to the congregation on this, so I know that you all will understand what I'm about to say. When the Democrats were in control of the House, we were able to push forward projects that were programming projects. This organization is doing this great work. They're serving the community, whether it's through food or, whatever. We were able to fund those types of projects. And the amount was a lot greater than what we're able to do now. Since the Republicans took over, they have said, well, we only want to do, we won't take away the project funding, the quote unquote old earmarks. We won't take that away. But what we're going to say is you can only use it to like rehab buildings or to purchase buildings, that type of thing. There can be no programming. And so so some of those projects that came in, we had to let people know we can't do that right now. But once Democrats come back into office, into the leadership, maybe we'll be able to do those again. So that was the next thing. It was who was looking for a building, who was looking for to renovate a building. So that's kind of how we do it. And then we also, then the next bucket is how can we turn this around quickly? Because some of these groups, and I know we have other questions, but some of the projects may need a lot more work. And the Republicans only gave us like a couple of weeks to turn these around. So we were out in the community telling people like, hey, we know it's going to come, like start working on it now. So when they let us know, they might only give us 2 or 3 weeks to turn it around. And so sometimes for organizations, it's just not enough time. But our office, regardless of if you have a grant writer, regardless of if you've ever done this before, we will work directly with organizations and local governments, because this is also for local governments. We will work with you to help you to, dot all the I's and cross all the T's that are going to be needed.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So if you have anyone, if you know of anyone, this is about to come up. This is the next one for this year, FY 2025 is about to come up. They'll probably let us know in the next few days or the next couple of weeks, and it'll go fast. So if you know of any people, any organizations that could really utilize this funding, please reach out to our office.
Thank you. We have a number of folks with their hand raised, and one question that came in earlier in the chat from Ed Weisbart. Could you speak briefly about how to best balance the conflicting perspectives about Israel and Hamas?
Yeah, I think the thing is we have to be clear about who we are as a community. We're a community that believes that all life is sacred. All life is precious. So when people come against us and say, hey, you're wrong for believing that all people, should breathe, that all children deserve to grow old, we push that back. We fight that, because in the same way, every single child in this district deserves that. That's why we're pushing for food, for more food programs and affordable education and all of those things. That's why we're pushing for that, because we believe that here. And so if we believe it here, then we believe it across the world. And so that's how we have to push back. We as we condemn what happened on October, the acts on October 7th, and we mourn and grieve with every single person that lost a loved one or a family member, we also mourn and grieve with every single one of the 30,000+ that have lost their lives since. We also want to see the hostages come home, but we want to also see those that are being arbitrarily detained come home. We want to see UNRWA reinstated with their funding, because we have 1 million people starving. We have 1 million people who need who need food. When I think about the people in St. Louis who need food, that hunger hurts. And I think about how it hurts, because I've been hungry. I know what it's like to not have a place to sleeping in my car. I know what it's like to not have food. And so I don't wish that on anyone. And so I speak up to make sure that all lives are being seen as equal value. And so I think that's how we have to look at it, because it's always, what if it was me? What if it was my kid? What if it was my neighbor next door? So that's what we have to do. And when people throw at us, oh, well, then that just must mean that you support Hamas. No, absolutely. I don't say anything about Hamas. Standing up for Palestinians is not standing up for Hamas. It is not, because Palestinians are not Hamas. That's like saying I'll just say it's just an egregious thing. That's like saying that all, people who are, unhoused are all criminals. We know that it's not true. That's like saying that all people who are incarcerated, that they are all bad. We know that's not true. I don't generalize anyone. And so I believe that we have to stand up for every single life has to matter to us.
Thank you. Next in queue is Margot Martin, if you would unmute.
Thank you, and thank you, Congresswoman, for your work. My question is about, I know you're an advocate for defunding the police, and could you be specific about just exactly what that means for you?
Sure. Thank you for asking that. So for me, what that looks like is we have these military grade weapons and stockpiles of them in our communities, and not just locally, across the country, where we're purchasing tanks for $150,000, $350,000 each. For me, we're purchasing bear spray and skunk spray that we use on our own community members. All of this money is being used for the people in those, the people in those communities. For me, when only 1% of a city's budget goes to housing, housing or health services, 1%, but then you have double digits, like 50%, 43%, 49% going to the police budget. My thing is, why couldn't we have 3% go to health and take 2 or 3% off of the police budget so that we can have more money for people to be able to go get shots for their get the shots for STDs, have for our community members to be able to have housing, include more shelters, or be able to pay our teachers more. I feel like this does not take money away. This does not mean don't pay police officer salaries. This does not mean don't take care of making sure that whatever equipment is needed. It's none of that. This is about military grade weapons for me. This is about the overage that is being spent, that's taking away from us being able to take care of the people. So that's what it means to me. And so I feel like if we take 2% that's being used to purchase, or 3% that's being used to purchase military grade weapons for the same people that we're supposed to be trying to help, we take that money and put it into our social programs.
Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Next question, Frank, I apologize. I'm not sure I can pronounce your last name, so we will just go with if you would unmute and ask your question.
Okay, so my last name is Meniachi, by the way. So my question is for Cori Bush is, so I'm a member of the St. Louis DSA. I'm also a member of, or a delegate of the St. Louis Central Labor Council. I am a very active union member for the Machinist Union in District 837. I'm in the Political Action Committee over there. I'm out gathering signatures for the petition to raise the minimum wage and guarantee sick time for workers. And while doing all this, I've gone around in the community in District 1, and I got a wide network. I got people asking me, about the race coming up between Cori Bush and Wesley Bell. And the only question I have is, can we see you out in the public more often? Because all the people that I know that are fans of Cori Bush, that's really the only complaint that I hear, is that they don't see you out in the public enough.
Yeah, I think part of that is, I'm not sure where people want to see me, so they can always reach out and say, hey, can you come to this event? But I'll say this, just over the last week, I've been to 12, probably like 12 different places publicly, locally. And that was in 2 days. That was 2 days alone. On top of all the other things that I've done. But those are just the 12 places that I had on my schedule. So I think when people say that they want to see me in the community, I can't be everywhere that people necessarily want me to be unless they let me know about those places. Because I get flooded with requests to be at this meeting or this event or whatever it is. And so what we do is we try to make as many of those as we can. As soon as I hit the ground from DC, because that's the other part. People have to remember that I'm in DC a lot. One of the reasons why I'm in DC a lot is because we can't get anything done. The Republicans, we can't get anything done. We were supposed to be home for 10 weeks. We were supposed to be in DC 10 weeks and then home dispersed throughout that 10 weeks for 7. We were in DC for 17 weeks because we didn't have a speaker and all of these other things. And so when we are, they keep adding more time. But when we are able to come home, as soon as I hit the ground, my schedule is boom, boom, boom. So it's just me trying to get around to all the places that I'm asked to be. So it doesn't leave a lot of room for me to, and I don't know where people are saying that they want me to show up at, but please reach out and just say, hey, can you come to this event or can you come there? I literally walk the streets of St. Louis sometimes. I will go to a neighborhood and get out the car and just walk up and down the street. I'll do that for like 2 hours. And people is pull over and like, just walking up and down the street, just walking down the street just to be in that community and seeing the new buildings or businesses, stopping in, meeting people, knocking on doors. That's something that I do. So if people can reach out,
Not selfish.
that if people reach out, and let us know where they want to see us, like that would be helpful. But I just don't have a lot of, it's just not a lot of, like, I don't know where else people like for me to go,
So
if I'm at a festival, you have to, if I don't get on the stage, you might not know I'm there.
right. Well, I would suggest the St. Louis CLC if you can make the meeting in April. They're the 3rd Tuesday. I don't know if you're familiar with their schedule or who to contact or anything.
Okay. My team can reach out.
Okay.
Yeah, or if you have a contact, if you could, drop that in the chat, and my team is on, so they can reach out.
I actually don't, because of the troubles that we are having right now. I don't know if you've heard. Last year there was an issue, and they had to kick the Missouri State AFL-CIO had to come in and kick out the entire executive board because we're in deep financial trouble right now.
Okay.
Our
Well, we can
ability,
reach out.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe you guys can chat offline, or you can get in touch
Okay.
with her folks. And Frank, there's lots of contact information for Cori's folks popping up in the chat. Thank you all very much. Congresswoman, I know your time is limited. If there's 1 or 2 more questions, do you have time for those?
7:39. Okay.
All right. I don't see anyone else in the queue. If anyone else has a question, that would be a great time to either chime in or raise your hand. If you want, you can just unmute and ask. Wow, this is a first, Congresswoman. All their questions have been answered. That is really a feat, and I'm impressed. So thank you very much. Best of luck in the future, and thanks for all your service.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you taking the time to be with us and to be our congressperson. So
Absolutely.
once again,
thank you all so much. Yes, thank you. And you all have a great rest of the day.
You too.
Bye.
Okay, and with that, video's on now. We have a little bit of time if folks want to have an open discussion about anything. Usually our meetings end a little later than this, so we can open the floor for just a general chat, or we can call it a night and reconvene at our next meeting.
Do you mind if I talk about some of the presidential primary stuff and delegate selection things?
Oh, that'd be wonderful. Go right ahead, please.
Okay, awesome. So the presidential primary is going to be this Saturday. March 23rd from 8 a.m. to noon if you'd like to vote in person. I know that I think most everybody should have received their ballots by now if they are planning on voting by mail, but I did get an email from someone in my township today who had not received that yet. So if you haven't received it, I can give you a phone number to try to check on the status of that with the party, but our US mail has been a little unreliable lately, so I think it would probably be a little tight if you haven't gotten it yet to try to turn it back around and get it to the party by Saturday. So I would say your best bet is to go and vote in person, if you have not received it yet. Go ahead.
I actually did receive a ballot. With the way that mail is running right now, I'm a little concerned if I put it in the mail tomorrow that it may not get there by Saturday. Is there, what's on here is just a P.O. box. Is there a place to be able to drop it off in person?
Yeah, so any of the in-person polling locations, if you want to go during that 8 a.m. to noon on Saturday, you can drop them off there. Or if you have mailed in your ballot and aren't sure if it got to the party in time and you still show up on Saturday, they can track all of that down and essentially like spoil your ballot if they need to and have you like do all that stuff. So don't worry if you haven't gotten it, you can still go in person and vote. And yes, I can provide the link with the in-person locations. So there are 5 locations in St. Louis County. And so that is where voting is going to be taking place. And circling back to the petition, there is an opportunity if you would like to volunteer at any of those polling places to collect signatures, you can also do that as well. I do have a sign up link for that also, so I can find it in my email and drop it in the chat also, if that is something that is of interest to you. But I will say it is very important. I know it seems silly, the presidential primary this go around, everybody knows that, our President Joe Biden is going to be our Democratic nominee, but it is still so very important that you go and vote on the primary election day or mail back in your ballot, because our primary participation as a township, so as the Creve Coeur Township, as the Maryland Heights Township, determines how many delegates we get to send to the state convention. Also, if you're planning on being one of those delegates, you do have to have voted in this presidential primary election. So if you didn't vote in the presidential primary election, you cannot be a delegate to the state convention. So for the Creve Coeur Township specifically, if you live in the Creve Coeur Township, our mass meeting to select those delegates is going to be on Sunday, April 14th at 1 p.m. at the Dealman Recreation Center. And I also have the Queenie Lafayette, Missouri River Townships. They generally meet together, but they have a website and they have offered to post some of the surrounding townships information for their mass meeting. So I can also drop that link in there. I'm just talking a lot, but I promise I will get you all those links. Frank, did you have a question?
I have not heard about where the where the Maryland Heights Township is going to be meeting. Have you?
I have not. I can check in with Representative LaDonna Applebaum because she is the committee woman for Maryland Heights Township and see if she has any details on that.
Oh, that'd be good. I put on the screen the locations in St. Louis County for Saturday morning from the link that you sent out.
I have a question.
Yes.
So like if I live in Frontenac, can I go to any one of these or do I have to go to a specific one?
You can go to any one of these. So even say if you live in the state of Missouri, but you are like, for example, say I live here in St. Louis, but I'm planning on being in Kansas City on Saturday the 23rd. I could even go to a Kansas City polling location and still vote.
Okay.
So you can vote anywhere in the state of Missouri.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's also a number of city locations listed here. Okay, very good. Any other questions for Sydney? This is really good information. I will, Sydney, when you hear from LaDonna, if you could let me know and I'll put it out to our email list.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it's up to the committee people to arrange that. I really don't have anything to do with that, not being a committee man or a committee woman. So that's that.
And I believe they are still looking for someone who would like to be committee man for the Maryland Heights Township. So if you all know.
I thought LaDonna announced that there is someone.
She did last meeting, but unfortunately, he cannot serve as committee man. He lives in Maryland Heights, but it's actually the airport township. So so they do need someone for that seat.
Okay. Okay, very good.
And filing, so if you do want to run for that position, filing for that closes a week from tomorrow. So Tuesday, March 26th. And you file at the Board of Elections in St. Anne. It looks like there's a couple of hands.
Yep.
I don't know if Frank's was still up from before or if Frank has another question.
Go for it, Frank.
Okay, so I was actually going to talk about the petition. So it was mentioned earlier about number of signatures. I've been gathering signatures for the petition to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour and guarantee sick time for workers. So the way it works is you need 5% of registered voters in 6 out of 8 districts in order to be able to collect enough signatures to make it through. So while we were doing our campaign, we did a target of 200,000. So that's why I said if you got close to 100,000 volunteers for the abortion one, then as long as each person gets 3 signatures, then you're going to be good to go.
Yeah, that may have been a bit of a misstatement. I'm not sure.
No. Many of those volunteers are the notaries and they are not collecting signatures because they are unable to. And a lot of our volunteers are under the age of 18, so they're not legally allowed to collect signatures. They're doing the things like phone calling, making copies, and so forth and things like that. Making the phone calls to set up signature gathering trainings, making the phone calls for to line up places where we can have volunteers come and gather petitions. You know, we had the pageant in University City, very willing, and we had people there many evenings before the shows, but they recently have said, no, we can't be there anymore. So it can be difficult to get the permission to stand outside of a business or someplace like that. So that's why we are looking for house parties instead.
Thanks for that update. That clarifies things a lot. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, house parties are great. Again, if you're interested, lots of organizations will help you get that going.
Yeah, and I put my email address in the chat. So if there's someone on here tonight that would be interested in having a house party, please email me because I would come to it. You know, if we can set up a date that I'm available and you can have the house party, I would come there and gather signatures. You'd be the person inviting your friends or family.
Excellent. We have any other hands raised? I kind of lost my screen on that.
I'm using my cell phone, so I apologize. I don't know how to raise my hand. Can you hear me?
Just wave your cell phone in the air and we see it. No, just kidding.
This is Jean.
No, this is not a rock concert. Sorry. Okay.
How do we find out the rural area that they're concerned about? Like, do we need to get a couple carfuls of people to go to a certain rural area for a weekend, or does anyone know what the plan is for that?
That's a good question.
I've never heard anything like that you would do something. That sounds very good, though.
I've heard that they're having trouble with the far side of Congressional District 3, but I don't know how that's coming along.
Is that like Washington Union, Missouri? Yeah. Okay. I had heard that too.
Actually, I have plans. I have reservations at a place down there between Union and Herman, Missouri. And I'm going with a friend, and we're going to try to get signatures. But getting permission from someplace like Walmart, the Walmart in Owensville, might be difficult. So that's the problem with those areas. Where do you go where you're going to find a lot of people? You know, you go on a weekend, you know, set up someplace on a Saturday. You got to find enough people in those areas to collect the signatures.
I've heard some people are going to the Democratic caucuses, stand outside that.
Yeah, I'm set up for Saturday to collect signatures at the convention, the sites Saturday. If anybody is trained to collect signatures and you want to go, you can go to Missourians for Constitutional Freedom and look through the places to volunteer, and then click on the link, and it'll then send you an email to set you up to be at those places gathering signatures.
Okay. Any others?
It looks like Cheryl Rose has her hand raised.
Yeah, you mentioned You mentioned something about the having difficulty. Somebody mentioned something about difficulty in far west or something, Washington County, getting signatures. But it doesn't have to be the whole county. I mean, if you got the X number of the percentage of signatures you need in one area of the county, isn't that sufficient? Does anybody know?
You have to have a certain percentage, and I think it's 8% of the district. And there are 8 districts, but we need 6 of the districts. We need 8% in each of the districts. So it depends on if the district has a large metropolitan area that we could go to and collect signatures and get enough signatures in that area. Because, you know, I mean, think about northern Missouri, that district there are no major cities where the population would provide us sufficient places to collect 8% of that entire district. So
right, but I mean, if you could, it's possible to get it all from one little area of the district. It doesn't have to be spread out throughout the whole district.
That's
the 8%.
That's true. I was just told, and I'm just repeating what I was told, that they feel like they've saturated the eastern part because, you know, there are only certain places that there's really a crowd and they've been out there. So now people are trying to fill where they've had trouble. So, I mean, I'm not running this, I'm just repeating.
Yeah, I get you. Thanks. That makes sense.